In this Extra Life video, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about Hell Is Us. This is a game you've seen several times on our channel already. I covered this back in May when I went to Rogue Factor Studio in Montreal to play the game there. We had a preview on it then. I saw the game again at Gamescom just last week and spent some time talking to the developers while I was there as well. And in this video, you're actually going to see some review build footage of the game. This is from the review build that I am playing currently. You will see a review of this game on the channel soon. I don't know if I can say exactly when the review will be out yet because I don't know if that is public information, but the game does come out on September 4th, so you can imagine that the review won't be that far away at this point. Now, the area of the game that you're going to be seeing is the Limbic Forge area of the game. This is not a new area of the game. This was also present in the version of the game that we showcased back in May. You will see some footage on our channel from this area. But all the footage you'll be seeing today is from this area of the game. It's a little bit deeper into this dungeon. This is one of the game's dungeons, or one of the primary dungeons of the game from my understanding. And there are a lot of puzzle-solving mechanics, a lot of enemies in this dungeon. It's very dark, it's very creepy, stuff like that. So that's kind of the gameplay footage you're going to be seeing. You might have seen this already from other preview builds out there if you are, a huge fan of the game, but this is my own footage from the review build. And I do have permission from Rogue Factor themselves in order to use this for this video alone. Just can't show you guys anything that was not shown in the preview version of the game. So if you haven't heard of Hell Is Us before, Hell Is Us is kind of an action-adventure game with some Souls-like mechanics, or Souls-light mechanics, if you will. It has a combat system that uses stamina, it has dodges, blocking, parrying, it has skills, it has equipment that you can upgrade and weapons you can upgrade, and weapon skills that you can slot, and different abilities and things like that kind of make it Souls-light in nature. It's more akin itself, the game, to an action-adventure game than it is to an action RPG or a Souls-like game. But nonetheless, the combat is a little bit easy to explain when you say Souls-light, so that's why I use that. It is set in the country of Hadia, which is a fictional place with, on the planet Earth that's supposed to be kind of like realistic, but obviously a fictional version of Earth, where there is a civil war going on in this country. And the further you play into the game, you sort of realize why and how this civil war has been going on for such a long time. And for reasons that, probably wouldn't be too shocking to anyone. But what really makes the game interesting is not the Civil War aspect of the game, although that is tied to the story of the game itself. It's the fact that there are these cosmic events that are happening inside of the game that are directly related to that, and they're only happening in this part of the world. And you're trying to figure out why this is happening, how this came to be, while trying not to die simultaneously. Now, Hell Is Us is a AA production game, meaning that it doesn't have the budget of a AAA game. It doesn't have the staffing numbers of a AAA game. In fact, one of the things that's really interesting about this game is that they have about 50 people on their development team making this game, and it's really impressive so far what they've been able to do with such a small team. There are a lot of other small studios out there that have put out very impressive games with very small studios, but they do not include the outsourcing in their staffing. For instance, if they outsourced animation to some other studio, they don't consider them part of their smaller team, and they don't add them into the total count of people who worked on the project, whereas the only people included in the 50 number that Rogue Factor is giving people are the people that have worked on the game. So even if they outsourced a little bit, those people are all included in the total number, and to my knowledge, they have not even done that. So I think that's really, really impressive. And you can already see the potential in this game, if it was a AAA game, from what they've been able to accomplish. I mean, I'm not that far into the game yet, but what really stand out to me about this game are really three things. The art design, the sound design, or the sound of the game, and the world building of the game. Rogue Factor looks like they took a huge amount of time to create a backdrop for this game in Hadia and give this country its own history. Imagine if you invented a country and then had to give it 3,000 years of history that somehow fit into the history of the world, and also somewhat explains what's happening with these cosmic events. That's pretty incredible. And the whole world is littered with references to this history from what I've seen. And you have these ruins in these towns, and they're scattered on the landscape. And it's absolutely fascinating playing through that. And the sound design in this game is just absolutely incredible. The music involved in it. And again, I mentioned in the previous video that the executive producer and creative director of the game both have backgrounds in music, so it's not really surprising that this game has such fantastic music. But it's so fitting for the game as you're playing through it. It makes everything feel eerie and creepy. It makes you feel isolated. It makes you feel alone. It makes you know that something is coming. Like, you have this feeling that everything is building to something as you're playing, and you have moments throughout the game that are building to smaller moments as well, but very impactful moments. And the music really conveys that to you. You know when you're watching a horror movie and you know something bad is about to happen, you get that sort of thing here, but it also has a bit of that sci-fi element. Like if you were watching like Event Horizon, think of kind of music like that or something. It's very, very specific, and it fits this game perfectly, but you wouldn't see it in, 98% of games because it has to be a very specific type of game to fit, and it just works here really well. And the last part of that is obviously the art direction. The art direction is kind of the semi-realistic version of the game. It's not 100% realism, nor is it not. It definitely leans more to the realism side of things than not, because this does take place on Earth. And, these structures and things that you're exploring look like some things that like human beings could have built. So it's, it's definitely very realistic in nature, but not 100% realism. And it has this kind of like dark fantasy, dark horror overtone to it while you're playing. Even though it's not a fantasy game, it still feels a little bit like that because of these runes that are everywhere. And I think people are really going to really enjoy that. Like if you're a fan of fantasy games, for some reason, this kind of translates into that exploration. I think the thing that I love about fantasy games is the mystery of like, if you're like playing Skyrim and you go into a dungeon, you're like, what am I going to see in here? And what am I going to find? There's a lot of that type of exploration in this game, and it translates really well to the medium and art style that they've picked. And the exploration in this game is absolutely phenomenal. It's very hands-off so far. Most of the puzzles you'll have to think about. A lot of the things that you pick up, you use in a different area, and you have to remember, oh yeah, I picked up this key over here, and it must go to this door. Or, hey, I saw this, I just picked up a key, where was the door for it? And you, again, when we did the preview event in Montreal, they actually handed us a pen and paper so that you could write things down. And no joke, I've had to write things down in order to solve puzzles in this game so far. I use Notepad instead of an actual, pen and paper, but I've had to write down orders of things or combinations or whatever it is. And you will do a lot of that in this game. And I cannot stand when games these days just, you sit there and think for 10, 20 seconds, you're like, okay, it's giving me the information. I know I can solve this. Just give me a second. Let me think about this. And before you've even had a chance to think, the game's like, oh, you should do blah. Or an NPC's like, maybe if we use this on the door, it'll open. And we're going to get there in like 15 seconds, but the game didn't even give you that long to figure it out. This game does the exact opposite. If you miss being able to get stuck on a puzzle for 20 minutes and then finally figure it out and get that dopamine rush of, yes, I did it, I solved it, I completed this, it's challenging, but I did it. Most games these days go for that in like tough boss fights or things like that. It's fun to see a game that gives you that from the exploration, because that is just sorely lacking in the gaming industry these days. And the last thing I'll talk a little bit about is the combat of this game. From what I've seen so far, the combat is a bit of a mixed bag. I have mentioned this in my previous previews as well. This is not something that should be shocking to you if you watch that, but I have spoken to the developers at length about the combat mechanics of this game. They're very humble about the combat. They know that it's not flawless. They've also tweaked it many, many times, including the review build. You will see things in the review build here that are a bit different. The parry mechanics are a bit different. Progression of weapons is a bit different. There's a bit of changes going on as they continue to refine and improve their combat systems in this game. And I really like that they're taking feedback on board, and I love that, they're trying to make it the best possible combat, not just what combat they want and, screw what the player wants or what they want. They're really, really going for it. And if you talk to them, they wholeheartedly acknowledge that, creating Souls-like combat that's amazing is hard to do. It's one of the reasons that games like First Berserker Kazan and Lies of P are so popular, because replicating From Software's formula for combat is incredibly difficult to do well. From Software is the king for a reason. Nobody seems to be able to replicate it perfectly, and the people that come the closest seem to be the ones that succeed. And Rogue Factor is trying their absolute best to make phenomenal combat, and they keep making changes to work closer and closer to getting there. And the reason that I wanted to make this video after the Hollow Knight video is simply because everyone's going to play Hollow Knight. We know that. It's such a huge game. There might be one guy out there who doesn't play. I know you are. But Hollow Knight is just one of those games that people have been waiting for so long. And I know there's probably people out there that were keeping an eye on Hell Is Us, or maybe have forgotten about Hell Is Us and the hype of Hollow Knight. And I want to make sure this game doesn't get forgotten. I want to keep some eyes on this game, and whether you go play a Hollow Knight and then come back and play Hell is Us afterward, or you get the deluxe edition for Hell is Us and play before Hollow Knight, because you do have 3 days early access if you get that. I just wanted to keep it in your mind, because this is one of those games that has potential to be a cult classic. It has that thing to it so far that not a lot of games get right. I think Hell is Us is one of those games that has the potential to do that. It's very, very hard to do. I don't think, if I was a gambling person, I would bet that it would. But it's one of those games that could potentially do that. And that's why I want people to keep an eye on it. Now, obviously, we'll have a full review for this game coming soon, and I'll be able to tell you whether that's the case or not. But I definitely think between, now and Hollow Knight and etc., keep this on your radar, at least show up for the review and figure out if this is a game you want to play, because I definitely think it shouldn't be overshadowed just because there's so much hype around other games. So that wraps up our video on Hell is Us. What do you guys make of it so far? Do you like what you hear about this game? Have you been following it for a while? How has Silk Song's announcement for release affected your plans? Are you going to be playing this before with the deluxe edition? Are you going to be playing them both simultaneously? Or you can just play it after Silk Song? Let me know in the comments below.